Hi there, my name is Kiana and I am one of the Speed Art Museum's teaching artists with the Art Detectives program. I'll be taking you on a virtual journey through our education collection. Before we get to see those objects, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Have you ever been to the Speed Art Museum in person before? And if you haven't, have you ever been to a place like the Speed Art Museum? Think about the objects that you saw there. Were there paintings or sculptures? Today, I'll be giving you some examples of how you can be an art detective with me. With these objects, we will be doing three things. The first thing is that we will observe these objects. So we'll just look at it and on first glance, think about some different things about it, some of the first things you notice. The second thing we'll be doing is we will investigate the object. I will be handling the object for you to see, and we'll be looking at tiny details. You will be able to look at this object the same way our art handlers and curators do when they put them in our museum. And the third thing we'll be doing together is discussing. I will ask you some questions about the objects that you saw, and we'll talk about how they were made, what they were made of, what they were used for, where they were from, things like that. Before we get to see those objects, you might be wondering why I'm wearing these gloves. That is because I will be physically handling the objects, and if I wasn't wearing the gloves, the oils on my hands could damage the objects. It could break them down over time or change the paint color. So we put on these gloves when we're handling objects in the museum to keep them safe. Okay, let's get started. Today, we will be exploring the Who We Are and What We Make crate. First things first. The first object that we will be exploring is called a manila. As you can see, this manila is very thick. And if I hold it up close, you can see that it shines in the light like metal would, right? Now, because this manila is made out of that thick metal material, it is very heavy. Notice the color of this manila. It resembles something that we use every day. It's the same color as pennies, right? The Europeans introduced this to the Cuba people to use as currency, like we use money. So they would trade this manila for other goods, just like we trade money for things that we buy. How is this different from the money that we use today? Some manilas were later used to make art. How do you think this object could be made into art? Maybe you could melt down the metal and make it into a different shape, right? That is our manila. The next object that we will be exploring is this mug. Now, at first glance, you may have noticed that X in the bottom. X marks the spot. Do you think there was treasure in here? Not treasure, but the X did tell us that this is good quality metal. Now, This may be a type of metal that you are not familiar with, as we don't use it very often today. This type of metal is called pewter. Pewter does not crack, and it does not rust. Pewter was used across Europe around this time for many things like cups, plates, and dishes. It says half pint on the front. The official half pint marking means that this was inspected for the size and for the amount that it holds. Now, this particular mug is from a place called the Albion Hotel in Chester, England, and it dates back as far as 1880, somewhere between 1880 and 1900. Does this look like the mugs we use today? Why do you think we stopped using this material to make our cups and plates? Do you think it was expensive? Maybe hard to come by? What else does this mug remind you of? Where have you seen objects like this before? That is our pewter mug from the Albion Hotel in Chester, England. This piece, by well-known artist Salvador Dali, was made in 1966. Here you can see a scene with not a lot of detail. So we think that this could have been maybe a dream. Salvador Dali made what we call surrealist art. So this means that there are some real elements, like the horse, right? But they may be a little twisted, so that reality is up to the interpretation of our thoughts. What do you think is happening in this picture? See maybe a crown, a lady. Did her crown get stolen? Maybe some knights or something in the background here? What story is this piece telling you? And if you drew one of your dreams, would it look like this? Would there be more detail, perhaps? Or less detail? More of a mystery? This is The Lady and the Unicorn by Salvador Dali. Together, we've learned about the manila from the Kuba people in Africa, the etching from Salvador Dali in Spain, and about the pewter mug from England. Did you learn something new about who they were and the art that they made? When we discussed Salvador Dali's The Lady and the Unicorn, I mentioned that the etching showed us a dreamlike world and encouraged you to think of what one of your dreams would look like. You can draw one of your most memorable dreams. You can choose to make yours tell a story with lots of detail, or you can make it mysterious and open like a surrealist artist. You will need colored pencils or crayons or markers, and perhaps a pencil sharpener. You can find the template on the Art Detectives page on the Speed Art Museum's website. Great job, Art Detectives! I hope you learned something new, and you have some ideas for creating your own work of art inspired by the objects you saw today. If you enjoyed observing and discussing these objects, please come visit us at the Speed Art Museum, where you can see objects from all around the world. Thank you so much for being an art detective with me today.